Stellar Blade masterfully combines the intensity of Souls-like combat with a slick, fast-paced approach. The game's fluid, stylish combat is paired with stunning visuals and a diverse array of unique encounters, making it appealing to both veteran Souls players and newcomers. Whilst not as punishing as titles like Sekiro or Bloodborne, Stellar Blade offers enough challenge to keep players engaged without the severe penalties for death. The abundance of bonfires and the absence of soul loss provides a more forgiving experience, encouraging players to take risks, express themselves freely and fully while enjoying the combat. One of the things I really loved about Stellar Blade was its ability to maintain freshness throughout the entire playthrough. This is achieved through a steady stream of new upgrades, skills, and brief yet impactful changes in gameplay mechanics. Although the story may not be groundbreaking, it surpasses the narrative depth of most Souls games, which often have very obtuse storylines. I will say, however, that the world building here is actually pretty decent and is done through NPC interactions, lore, and side quests. And all of these interactions contribute to a somber tone and atmosphere that shine a light on humanity's twilight. Despite its tough combat, there is a fun and not so serious edge to Stellar Blade, which is a welcome change to the usual tension-filled Souls experiences. I highly recommend it for not only being a great Souls-like and a Souls-light, but also just a hell of a video game. I'm going to start with the gameplay in Stellar Blade because it underpins everything great about it. Stellar Blade delivers fantastic combat with tight, well-constructed mechanics. The visual presentation is flashy and engaging, making it immensely satisfying to pull off combos. The game's combat system is one of its strongest aspects, offering both visual and tactical enjoyment. Skill points are your souls here and they don't vanish on death. Add to this that upgrades have clear rewards. For newer players, this means getting 3 strength and 1 dex is no longer a fact-finding exercise to figure out exactly what's happening with your character. In Stellar Blade, the skill upgrades are clear, you can try them in the training room before you buy them, and the upgrades are clear and presented to the player. With over 40 enemy variants, Stellar Blade keeps encounters fresh and challenging. The diversity in enemy design ensures the combat never feels repetitive. The checkpoint system as well is more forgiving than a typical Souls game, with more frequent save points and boss fights often restarting you close to the encounter. These minor but important changes make this a game more accessible to casual players. And that's a really important point, because if you're trying to get your friends into a Souls game, this would be the one I'd recommend. This is the one where you could get them to scratch that itch to get them into the genre. There's actual build crafting where the information is clear and direct, and gives the player the option to mold their player style to what they want while not having to rely on confusing statistics. Side quests are generally short and sweet and all provide meaningful upgrades, and this makes you willing to pick them up. The game offers a satisfying loop of challenging battles, rewarding bounties and quick missions, keeping you engaged and keeping you moving forward. In the intro, I talked about how they keep things fresh, and really that's one of the things that really stood out to me. It felt like the developers here didn't want the player to feel like they'd seen it before. They didn't want the player to get into a monotony, into a routine of just doing the same thing, so they break it up with small gameplay tweaks. One example is a level that kind of bridges you between chapters. That's basically, for all intents and purposes, a horror shooter. That mission is short, sweet, but it provides a nice change of pace. You then got other mini games and side missions that provide these cute little action scenes or action sequences. Again, it's nothing mind-blowing, but it's just great that they thought that they'd break up the rhythm, the tension of a Souls game. Don't know if you're like me, but sometimes playing a Souls game can take its toll on you because it's a constant 30, 40, 50 hours of concentration and focus and thinking about all your battles and the stress of losing your souls. I think Stellar Blade finds a nice step back from that tension while still providing the difficulty. And a key point to make regarding Stellar Blade and its time efficiency is that you can play Stellar Blade in small or large chunks if you wish to, and still make meaningful progress for your character and for the story. Due to the abundance of bonfires and the lack of penalty on death, you can pick up small side quests and bounties, as well as do bigger missions or just explore the open world areas and pick up enough currency to then invest in skills and make your character stronger. And I think this is an important point to make, because when I talk to players about getting into Souls games, one of the first obstacles you get from people is that they don't want to waste their time constantly dying and making no progress. And I think Stellar Blade does a fantastic job of making sure that is not the case. Now, if you're a veteran Souls player, Bloodborne player, or Sekiro player, Stellar Blade will definitely be easier than those games for you. I mean, normally I'm a guy who averages like 10 tries on a hard boss before I really get it down and beat them. I'd say in Stellar Blade it took me probably 1 or 2 goes, if I'm being really honest. So yeah, it's not the most difficult for hardened Souls players, but then again, not everything has to be. There are also tons of extras to find and cosmetics to unlock. Some are a touch more revealing than others. Actually, you know what? Just a note on that as well, on the supposed controversy regarding Stellar Blade. I'd like to think, and please leave a comment if I'm way off base here, but I'd like to think the majority of gamers don't care what a character looks like, whether she's beautiful or not beautiful, whether he is hench or not hench. They care firstly if the game plays well, if the game respects the player's time and money, if the game has some original ideas, or is implemented to a high level. That's what gamers care about. I think far down on that list is what a character looks like. And personally, I feel, and let me know if you agree in the comments, I feel that the people who don't play this game because the character is beautiful are just as bad as the people who do play this game just because the character is beautiful. It shouldn't matter how sexualized the character is. It shouldn't matter whether the character is a representation of a certain type of woman or man. What should matter is the game plays well, that they respect the player, and they respect the time and money the player invests, that they put effort into their product, and then everything else comes after that. Anyway, back to the combat. It's fantastic, it's excellent, it's got a lot of challenge, but not too much challenge for new players who can get their feet under the table, and then the difficulty ramps up. And if you do want to give yourself more of a challenge, you've got hard mode, NG+, and a challenge boss mode, which allows you to push yourself further if you wish to. All in all, an excellent gameplay experience. Moving on to the audio-visual component of the game, and we have to talk about the music first because it's garnered a lot of attention because the soundtrack here is done by the legendary Nier Automata producer, and it enhances the game significantly. Music can have an impact to elevate big parts of a game or set pieces, but what I found in Stellar Blade was that the music actually made exploration, especially of the open world areas, a lot more enjoyable. But for the most part, I really enjoyed the music. It adds an almost soothing tone to what is quite a somber world. The open world areas may be lacking in style. What isn't lacking in style is the combat. Brilliant flashes of blue and pinks, as well as gore, blood, all come together to make a combat experience that's extremely visceral and kind to the eyes. Not only is the combat skillful to execute, when you mesh it with that type of visual flair, it makes it feel even more badass, even more skillful. And that in turn leads you to actually going towards combat rather than sometimes thinking, ooh, I'm not going to take that fight because I'm carrying this many souls, or I'm that far from a bonfire and I don't want to go through the whole map again. Stellar Blade doesn't really have that. You kind of go towards the combat because the combat's making you stronger, it's giving you more skills, it's adding more strings to your combat bow, and all that feeds into a loop of a system that is extremely satisfying. Now, I've seen some comparisons to Nier Automata in terms of a story, and I think if you compare many games or any game to Nier on story, I think they're going to fall short. This doesn't touch the heights, it doesn't get anywhere near the heights of Nier. Let's just be very clear on that. However, the world building through side quests and bounties is solid. The collectible memory sticks do add some depth to a variety of side missions, characters, as well as the lore, and it creates an intriguing backdrop, even if it doesn't fully achieve its ambitious goals. The pseudo open world areas are somewhat bland in terms of colour palette, often featuring similar brown and sandy tones. Despite this, the game's reward system on side quest and enjoyable combat make the exploration worthwhile. So all in all, Stellar Blade is just an excellent video game. It's fun, it's hard, it's challenging, it's got great visuals, it's got great style, the story is good enough, and it's got like a cheeky, fun side to it that makes you crack a wry smile. Which I don't know if you're anything like me, but that's definitely better than dying in Blight Town a million times. Look, I really enjoy Stellar Blade. I think it's a fantastic Souls game because it isn't just quite as serious as a Souls game, and that's really nice. It's challenging, it engages that part of your brain that wants to be challenged, that wants to time things. The parrying mechanic and the dodge mechanics are super satisfying, and they feed into high damaging skills which look great. The game looks beautiful, pleasing on the eye, and there's enough switch ups in the gameplay, however small, break the monotony that can sometimes set in when you're playing a tension-filled Souls game. Overall, highly recommend it. Pick it up. Honestly, it's a fantastic game, and it's well worth your time. Peace, take care, thanks for watching.